Well, hey, everybody, it's Brian. Welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Big thank you for everybody who's been going on LinkedIn, connecting up with me, following the Brutal Truth page. We've got a company page up there now, so just search Brutal Truth Sales Podcast in your LinkedIn search page and follow that. I put out a bunch of funny videos every day, as well as me walking around with all my brainstorms about selling. If you'd like to see them in your LinkedIn feed, just follow that. Throw a little like my way. I'd really appreciate it, and connect up with me on LinkedIn. Hey, this week we got a great episode. We're going to be talking about the complex sale from somebody who grew up with it, the daughter of the Miller-Hyman family there. Alice Hyman's joining us this week, and we're going to get into the complex sale. She grew up with it, has been teaching it for quite a while. We're going to be talking about what people are doing wrong, how to do it smart, how to make sure that the deal actually closes, and we're coming up to that Q4. So at the very end, I'll update you on the classes. But before we get into it, I want to make sure you're checking out pipedrive.com and nudge.ai. Both have the coupon code Brutal Truth, all one word. You get a free month. Pipedrive's got some great blog posts. Let me read off some of them for you. 4 sample cold calling scripts, sales management definitions. They've got a bunch of templates of how to build out your sales process. And this is critical because we're mostly visual people, right? We got to see our pipeline visually. And it's a great way to keep track of all your contacts, your emails, and your pipeline, as well as you can use Nudge to scour the internet to give you ideas every morning in your email box. I've got a free course for that at B2BRevenue.com. The coupon code for the course is Nudge. For the product, it's Brutal Truth. And you can just make sure you use that coupon code, and it's a $250 course. You get it for free with the coupon code NUDGE. I also have a LinkedIn course at b2brevenue.com, and there's no coupon code for that. Make sure you're also checking out covideo.com. This is the year of video. I did a blog post for them on why video has just blown up my business this year, and video email is the future. It's something that we all should be leveraging, so make sure you're checking out them. Let's get into the interview with Alice. Wait up to the end. I'll give you an update on the course and the price change that's going into effect September 1st. So if you're interested, make sure you're checking it out at b2brevenue.com training. Here we go. Hey, Alice, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And a little bit about me. I have a company that helps companies who have a business-to-business sale and are wanting fast growth. So it's a lot of fun. We get to work with the owners of these fast growth companies. Some of them are startups. Some of them are more mature companies who've taken on some private equity. And they all want the same thing. They want rapid exponential sales growth. And so we dig in with them and make that happen.
So you've found the magic bullet there, the high velocity complex sales solution?
Absolutely. I mean, these magic bullets, they don't come easy, but we did find one. And,
it was a subject line, right?
Yeah, it's called hard work. Yeah. That's our magic bullet. I think part of it is, just being a little smarter about the way you do things and truly understanding the complex sale. People talk about mastering the complex sale. And what I always say is, we really can't master the complex sale because it's changing all the time. But what we can do is develop a great process to approach the complex sale.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know about you, but how many times do you find your clients even understand it and how it's different?
Oh, they don't typically, and they're not really sure what's making up all the complexities. And some of the things that are making it more complex are not so obvious sometimes, like your own internal processes are making it harder for your salespeople to get a deal closed. And that's something I think a lot of companies don't recognize. I think that they also don't recognize the risk in making a decision these days, especially when it's a small company selling to a really humongous company. Yeah. There is risk on the part of the buyer when they buy from a small company. So I think there's a lot of things going on that people don't recognize, and they really need to have a good look at what's making their particular sale so complex. And then they can put some solutions in place that will take some of the complexness out of it. I mean, it is what it is, but if you can start to formulate some solutions and be aware and proactive, the sales cycle can get a lot shorter.
And once you kind of unravel their sale and kind of explain what's going on within their customer base, did they get overwhelmed, or how do you deliver that news?
Yeah, that's a good question. It can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes, especially when I look at their sales opportunities in their pipeline and start digging in and asking hard questions like, well, how many of the buyers do you know for this opportunity? Yeah. And they do the old, I got a guy. He really loves me.
Oh, and I've heard that.
He loves our
before.
Product.
Yeah.
He's our champion.
Anybody else?
And then I'll say, got anybody else? Yeah, well, I know the, marketing director, or I know the sales VP. Okay, anybody else? And as we all know, there are, according to Gartner, 6.8 buying influences involved in a complex sale these days. I actually think there's really more than that, because there's a lot of buyers that are hidden and whispering in the ears of the buyers that you get to talk to. And so there's a lot going on there. And again, that risk comes into play. So we've got these many buyers and all the people whispering in their ears, and everybody's got their own opinion about what should happen and how it should happen and what kind of risk is involved and whether we want to change or we don't want to change. And so I think when you got a guy, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Versus thinking that you're going to close a deal, because you need 6 or 7 or 8 people who are involved, and you've got to figure out who they are. And even if you are not going to get the opportunity to talk directly to them, you have got to figure out a way to influence them. And that may be through the 1 or 2 contacts that you have a relationship with, and helping them understand how to deliver information to those other buying influences, and doing clever things like providing videos and short one-pagers that make it easy for the people you are in contact with to deliver the information to all of the others that they have to talk to about your product, your solution.
And that's it, because what end up happening, you have the one guy, and then you have the sales rep who's very comfortable with that person. They build up a great relationship. There's openness and everything, but it doesn't matter. It's like that person has influence, but not control over the money, not control over legal, not control over the budgets of other people and where it fits into their priority stack. And today, certainly is different than when probably you and I started, was that the options for that money have gone up exponentially.
That's right. That's right. There's so many options, and budgets get yanked around all over the place. There's a budget for this, and now all of a sudden that budget's gone because they needed that budget for something else, or, somebody changed their mind or something happened. So I think that understanding that it's a moving target, and that's why we need so many connections and relationships, because if one person stops talking to us, or they leave the company, or they get sick, or they go on maternity leave or parental leave, we've got other people to talk to. I've got one deal with a client that's stalled right now because somebody's on parental leave. Yeah. And nobody else will step up to carry the project through. So it's just stalled until that person gets back. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? If you had strong relationships with more of the people involved, then you wouldn't have that problem. The other thing that's really hard, I think, these days is if you just have one main contact at one of these huge companies, or at any company, you are putting tremendous pressure on that one person to understand your products and services and be able to communicate that to everyone else involved. Not just communicate what it can do, but communicate the return on investment, communicate, why it's so great, and what kind of changes can happen. That's too much pressure for one person. That person has a full-time job already.
Yeah.
And now you're putting on top of that this work that they have to do to sell your product or service. Now, granted, they may be the one blocking you, saying, only talk to me, I'm the only one. But even in that case, it's still true. All the pressure is on them to drive this through at their company. And that's too much.
And isn't that a red flag when somebody isn't open to you talking to other people? And, because let's face it, it is not their job to buy. They may have the desire for your product or service. They may want it. It may help them get promoted or make their life easier. But, they didn't go to buying school. There is no buying school out there, is there?
You're absolutely right, Brian. It's right. There is no buying school for most. Actually, there are some classes on negotiation that they put some buyers through, and there are some training programs, but for the most part, the buyers are not educated on how to buy. And they're just people like you and me who have a need. They either have a problem they need to fix or they want to grow. And they're just normal human beings like the rest of us. And they need help buying. And in fact, it's one of the most important things a seller can learn to do today is to teach the buyers how to buy from you. I mean, here I am, and I have a great product and service, and I can solve a lot of your problems. It's cost effective. It's awesome. But you have no idea how to buy that from me. Now, you know how to buy stuff because we all buy stuff every day. But when you're doing a complex sale, the buying process needs to be explained explicitly. So, we've all agreed that this is a great solution. Let's talk about what it will take to make this happen. And get, this has to happen next, and then next, and then next, and here's the timeline for each of those things. And if we can do each of those things along this timeline, then we will be able to deliver this or implement this in time for you to have what you need. It's really very simple because most things have to be delivered or implemented, and you just back up from that date. So if somebody wants to buy something from you, the most important thing that you can ask them is, what's your timeline for implementation or the timeline for getting started? And so based on that, what's your timeline for making the decision? Then based on that, we can figure out what the close date has to be so that you get what you want when you want it.
That's it. I got to tell you, the number of years I was in sales before I had to figure it out. And then once I figured it out and looking around at almost nobody in sales understood it. None of the customers understood it. How to, not only the administrative way of fill out a purchase request, get it signed, get it assigned to somebody in procurement, have legal check it, but the political steps that you have to go through of, whose support do we need, who has sign off at what level. And I tell these stories all the time about when I doing these huge deals. It'd be 9:00 at night. We'd be in the CEO's office, and he goes, "You know what? I should call the chairman of the board before I sign this." You're like, "Whoa!" There is sometimes almost no end to the amount of approvals and steps that are going through, and if people don't think through this and budget their time, their effort, and their energy, they're really missing out. And I think today we're going in the wrong direction in sales. The VCs don't want to fund anything that's not high velocity, can't be done on the website, but yet a lot of people are still producing great products that cannot be sold that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think really that, the research does show us that the buying decision for business is moving closer to the way we make decisions as consumers, and that we should pay attention to that, and that people do most of their research on the web before they actually, call you or engage with, a salesperson to buy something. And I think we do need to take note of that. But along with that, again, it's human beings talking to human beings about a solution that's either going to fix something or help you grow. And if we can just keep it on that human level and help people get what they need, I think it's going to be a lot easier. But it's true that when we have investors involved as well, they don't want to fund certain things or they want to do things a certain way, but they're not doing the day-to-day work. So again, we still have to work with the people who are making the decision, and they may have to go back to their board or go back to their investors, but we want to arm them really well with this is how it works. Here's the timeline for it. Here's the return on investment, the value proposition, all the things they need so that they can speak clearly to those who are going to help them make the decision and explain what needs to be explained if they're not going to let you do it, which, is the best thing, to convince them, hey, I'm on your side. I'll make you look like a hero. Let's go talk to them together. But if that doesn't happen, then we have to arm them with everything they need.
And that's it. Yeah, I'd like to buy everything like I buy it on Amazon, have it show up the next morning. I mean, yesterday I bought an iPad and it was here by 9 a.m. It's just amazing. But I knew what I wanted.
Right.
But in business to business, there's probably, tens or hundreds of things out there that could make my business infinitely better. I don't even know about them.
Right.
And that's the goal. That's the real area of B2B sales. And this is why these companies get sold for pennies on the dollar, is that they're unable to figure out how to sell their product, or they're trying to copy the people that are in the tornado. And which is nice if you're in the tornado. But
right.
But if you're out here and there's a slight breeze, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. No. It's true. It would be great if it was easy, but the things are really complex these days. A lot of the data that we need, the systems that we need, the security that we need, the software, these things are complex, and we need help making those decisions for sure. So we can't just go, oh, data security, let me go on Amazon, bam, and now miraculously my entire company is secure. Doesn't work like that, right? So we do need salespeople. We do need them to be smart and insightful and helpful and problem solvers so that we can learn about their products and services. And you're right, there's so much stuff out there that we don't know about yet. And with the complex sale, again, especially with small companies selling to really big companies, the type that I work with, you have to make sure you get in the path of those who can buy from you. And of course, marketing should be helping you do that. And with the internet and, SEO and paid advertising, social media, your website, there's so many things that you can do to get in their path. Some of them are more expensive than others, but you've got to do it, because if they don't even know you exist, how are they going to buy anything from you? Like you said, there's probably tons of things that could help your business that you don't even know about yet. So how do we get these big companies to know that we're there and we have great solutions? We've got to have a really rock solid plan to do that and build awareness in the marketplace so that we can get people interested, and they'll raise their hand and say, hey, I want to talk to you. Or when you make a call, they will be interested because maybe they've heard something or seen something or received your emails or saw you on social media, and you've put out really great information and your value prop and how you give people a return on investment. You're using really smart words to make them look at you and go, wow, I think these people really know what they're doing. Let's talk to them.
And what's the journey you take your clients through? Is it an audit of their current process, their pipeline? Do you talk to customers? What's the approach that you figured out to be really effective for you?
Yeah, we do most of those things. We don't do a lot of talking to customers. If we really need that to be done, we usually hire a firm to do that, although we sometimes do talk to customers. And it's always helpful to hear from customers, to hear what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it and how they found out about you, what prompted them to buy it, what is it like before they had your product or service, what is it like now. Those are all great things to know straight from your customer. Well, we usually get in to a company and we dig in right away to their sales funnel or pipeline, as a lot of people call it, and see what opportunities are in there, what size they are, what size the companies are that they're selling to, and start to look to see what's moving and what's not. And then we analyze that, right? And based on that, we look at their sales process and then change their sales process. So if you find a lot of things stuck in the pipeline, not moving anywhere, and you then learn the story of how those opportunities came to be and how they moved forward and then how they got stuck, you can really learn a lot about what's working and what's not working in the sales process so that you can fix it. But it also gives you a chance to jump in immediately and start coaching. So here's the thing. These companies want rapid exponential sales growth, right? That's fantastic. Everybody wants that. Well, maybe it's not always so good because rapid and exponential can implode you. Yeah. But okay, let's do it a little faster and a little better, at least, than we're doing it now. And so fixing process takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. However, they want sales now.
Of course.
So coaching individual opportunities does help move things now, today. And so we do those things simultaneously so that they see a lift in sales quickly, while we're also fixing things so that we don't have so many opportunities stuck in our pipeline.
Now, you raised number one, which I completely agree with, is that they're dealing with a single point of contact as pretty much the sole person that they're conversing with. What's probably number two of why the deals are getting stuck?
Well, I think part of it, there's a lot of things, but whenever the dollars are high, it's going to get stuck, right? Yes. Because it's got to move up to the highest level. So when you're dealing with complex sales, usually the dollar stakes are high, and that's different for every company, but it's usually $100,000, $500,000, millions of dollars. When the dollar stakes are that high, it's going to lengthen the sales cycle, and it's going to make things stick sometimes, because if you don't have the right ROI, return on investment statement, for the highest level people, and the buyers you are talking to can't explain it to those higher level people, it's like everybody sort of thinks it's a good idea, but we don't have all the information we need. There's going to be a lot of running around and chasing and stalling. So if we can get that information out right off the bat, that makes it easier. So I think the high dollar stakes make it complex and make it take a little bit longer. And I think the perceived risk that we were talking about before, people just don't want to make the wrong decision. They don't want to lose their job. So, it's true, right? So they're going to sit around and deliberate about it because they don't feel comfortable yet. The risk is still too high. So you have to think about how can you mitigate that risk for them and make sure that you've done that with all of the buying influences so they can relax and go, okay, this is good. Take this one off the table. This is not a risky move to go with this company. This is all going to work out. So if you can recognize that there's risk involved and mitigate that risk for them, I think that's another thing that can make the sales cycle move faster. There are several other complexities as well, multiple solutions. So, here I am sharing my solution. You're over there sharing your solution. We've got 3 or 4 other people sharing theirs. Oh my goodness, right? So now you've got a bunch of buyers who are really confused. They either think, well, these all look the same, so let's just buy the lowest priced one. Or they're like, well, these are not even similar, but they all sort of solve the problem, and I'm not really sure, so that gets confusing as well. So if, as salespeople, we learn to bring the buyers to consensus, that can be really helpful when there's multiple solutions. So we can say things like, hey, we understand you're looking at multiple solutions. One of the things that we suggest is just make yourself a grid and put each solution down and what the different pieces of that are and look at them all on one sheet of paper and then come back to us with questions. So now I'm kind of being a consultant versus just trying to sell my product. I'm saying, here are some good ways to make a decision when things don't look the same or don't feel the same. And then also making sure they really understand, again, your value prop, your return on investment, what you can do for them clearly so that your solution will stand out. And Brian, when solutions are all really similar, which in many cases they are, then what you sell becomes less important than how you sell. So when you are developing relationships, bringing value and insights, and really being a person that they can look to for good, solid advice, that will stand out when maybe your product doesn't.
Well, I think it definitely does, because you have to be that deal Sherpa, because they are usually on foreign ground. Especially if you're selling something that's completely new to the market or recently new to the market where people don't understand it, and everybody looks at web pages, they all look identical, and the person who wants one of them doesn't know how to get it done. Too often they just take your proposal, which is a quote that really doesn't describe anything but the items and the cost, forwards it to their executive. Their executive goes, "What's this?"
Right.
This looks like a bill, and I don't know why I'm looking at it. And the sales rep is like, "Well, I'm going to hear back, or I'm going to follow up." I don't think that reps, first, understand what has to happen internally. Second, do not own that process, because you can rely on the prospect to do it, but they don't have the stake that you have. Their pay isn't going to change if they don't buy the product, but yours will.
Right. Well, and their pay could change if they do buy the product and it doesn't work.
Yes. Yes.
Right, as we were saying before. Yeah, I think, again, understanding the buying process when your buyers don't even know.
Yes.
And especially when you're approaching somebody with a product or service that they've never heard about before and they didn't budget for because they had never heard about it. How could they? But then they're like, wow, this is so cool. We really want to buy this. We don't have a budget. How do we get a budget? Now, in smaller companies, it's not so hard because you can go right to the CEO and say, hey, we really want to buy this. Can you give us whatever the dollar amount is, or how can we do that, right? But in a huge company where there's purchasing and accounting and finance and all these other people and levels and things that, getting a budget for something that wasn't budgeted for that cycle is no easy feat. And so that's why we have to understand, well, if it's not in this budget cycle and it's going to be really hard to get it in, then let's get it in for next budget cycle. But let's do all the work up front so that it's super easy to close when we do get it in the budget cycle.
Excellent. Hey, this has been a great conversation, Alice. Where do people go to learn about your work, connect with you and your company?
Yeah, just go to AliceHyman.com. It's HEIMAN. AliceHyman.com, or of course you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn and let me know that you heard me here with Brian. And if you have any specific interests, I'd be happy to share some information with you to help you with those. So thanks so much for having me on the show today, Brian.
Hey, I hope you check out Alice. Hey, I want to give you an update on the courses. Basically, we've been doing office hours, and now I'm putting together case studies with some of the students and putting those into the office hours chapter. So this is not just a video course like you hear all over the internet. This is a live, living course where you get the office hours for coaching. All your questions are answered via video and put into the course. So when you buy into the course now, you basically get access to all the learnings, all the history of what everyone's gone through. And I've been modifying the course as we go through it to fix up the things, to put in more detail, and use case studies as a way of learning it. People are just crushing it. There's one case study, people are sending them pictures of the kids, inviting them out for, lunch and stuff. And everybody knows, we're going to get down to business eventually, but we're people and we can't forget that. So make sure you're checking them out. Also, I want to make sure you're aware of the other podcast. The Sales Questions podcast is now daily, Monday through Friday. So check that out. Sales Questions, brutally honest answers, as well as the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. There I focus on leadership issues, sales management, marketing issues, and it's a great way for you to understand really where the market's going and what people care about. And people are getting a lot of value out of that. And a big thank you for everybody who's gone on to LinkedIn, who's liked my content, shared it. And anybody who shares a screen image of the podcast, I will send you a free copy of my ebook, The Maverick Selling Method. It's a full book, no abbreviations, no chintzing on you in any way. Just make sure you just tag me in it so I see it, and I'll get you the book right away. So I appreciate you listening. And check out the other podcasts. I've got some great content there, and I'm putting out videos pretty much every day on Instagram, Brian G. Burns on Instagram, and Brian G. Burns on LinkedIn, the same videos. And I appreciate if you take a look at them and give a little like, a little comment. Help a brother out, will you? I'm over here working my butt off. I'm looking forward to the fall, huh? It's been a long, hot summer. I didn't take any time off. I hope you did. We'll see you next time.